is the Roland Fantom G6 in excellent, actually near mint condition. Everything works on it, every single switch, knob, function. And I think it's one of the coolest things Roland ever made. All the things it does in one box, even if you're using a DAW, which I am. And the only reason I'm selling it is because I have another one sitting right there that I'm keeping. So here's some more stuff about it. I'm also sending this with a little thumb drive there. And it has some really cool sounds on it. You have to put these in upside down. There you go. So you go menu, you go project, and you go load, then you go USB memory. These are showing, these aren't projects, they're documents. It doesn't hurt anything, but if you stick that in your computer, you can see the documents that have descriptions of some of these things. So these are all different projects. This is like 303 base stuff. That's something I put in there with some stuff you can look at or not. These are all from Sign Vibes, which a little tough to find now. And they're fine. I've got documentation in print on this that they're fine with somebody giving those patches away because these are years old. They Roland won't host them. They're not supported. So, but some of these packages are enormous. The Gigapack in particular, the first time I went to load it, I thought something was broken. It takes almost 10 minutes to load that. And it's enormous. So some of these other ones, they're not too quick. Analogies, organics, I don't know, analogies, let's check that out. Let's see how long that takes. Oh, it's not too bad, he said. And then okay, so yeah, these are all samples. And I don't know if this is off camera, but it's the pads are incrementing. All right. So it's coming back up in single mode. Live, Ginit live set. Oh, there's all kinds of sounds here. It's a nice pad. Very Rolandy, a little bit D50-ish, right? Some effects. So you get, and if you hold shift down and turn this, okay, so you can see there's about 40 patches in that set, but a lot of them have their own user samples, which is why that took a while to load. So again, if you do buy this, just be aware that if you go to load, most of these will load fairly quickly, but that Gigapack is going to take almost 10 minutes. Here's a little bit of general information about the Roland Fantom G series. The G6, G7, G8 are all exactly the same, except for the number of keys and the type of keys, but all of this stuff, all the circuitry is exactly the same. So first of all, it has 3 modes of working. In my opinion, the first thing to learn is these 3 modes. Single is what it sounds like. You pull up a single patch, and live, it's funny they call it live. I use live for sequencing because you can go to studio mode, which gives you the part view of 16 different things, so on and so forth. But in live, you have 8 different synthesizers, 8 different patches. Each one can be on any MIDI channel. They can be on the same channel or different ones. And each of these sounds can be transposed. They can have different key ranges, different controllers, whatever you want. And this is a set. So a live set is not a patch. It's a bucket that holds up to any 8 patches, either presets that are written in ROM or from the user bank that you can copy things into and edit them or put in entirely new patches. If you cursor down past the 8, you get to the external MIDI channels. So you can see the way I've got this set is that channel 1 is sending. So when I'm playing the keyboard, it's sending MIDI out. In the live set, if you just select this, it's going to play part 1 unless the live set has been programmed to have other layers on, like that. This one has an acoustic piano there, and a pad. You can see they're both turned on. So if you didn't have these turned on, now that patch would only play that first one. The 8 sliders and the 4 rotary controls are extremely useful because they're mapped constantly on multiple screens to many different things. So it might be difficult to see this on the video, but here, even if you go to single mode, you'll see 4 things here, and these are 2 switches that are over by the mod wheel that I can turn on or off. And then 8 faders here. And these are all, in every patch, these are mapped to whatever is listed here, and you can change this. And something like this, if you see a little red box with a white number in it, 1 through 4, that means just by grabbing that knob, even though it's a piano sound and it's got modulation. Okay, whatever. And you can see here, there's a threshold that you can set that without hitting this rotary knob, you can come over and hit the S1 button and it will turn it up all the way, or kick the button in at a certain threshold. Pretty cool. So let's go find some other sound here. All right, this is an interesting one. It's got, each of these is 4 oscillators per voice. So this has 4 different sounds that are at different velocities. And when you hit really hard, something about this that's cool is these pads can be in any number of modes. So if you go pad mode, 6, now this is in rhythm sets. And it loads the new one on the beat. But there's 15 other pad modes, like if you're in the live mode I was showing you, you can go to part select, and then you can, just with the pads, instantly select any of the 8 parts there. If you go to tone select here, see the tone switches? Now we got nothing. So if you turn on number 1, you play, you don't hear anything. Why? They're all different velocities. And the reason there's also 4 here is if you go into edit this, first of all, when you hit patch edit, you're going to get a general list here of the filter, the pitch envelope, the filter envelope, and the amplitude envelope. But if you hit Pro Edit, now you got this whole long list of things. You can use this, but Roland built in a lot of shortcuts that aren't that well documented. You have to dig through them, but a lot of them involve using the alpha wheel or the cursor buttons or holding shift. So for instance, to go down this list, you can use these, but also if you hold shift and do that. So wave is the actual oscillators, if you will. This is an internal wave in ROM. It's wave number 409 of like 2000 or whatever. If you come down 1, these are the structures, and these right here, I don't know if you can see it, there's the velocity from 1 to 50 is tone 1. And then up here, see how the red comes on? You can actually change which one you're adjusting in the edit screen. That's just not even scratching the surface of what all these pads will do. One thing I found very convenient is to memorize where the exit key is. Okay, something else. Live mode. Let's go shopping. Let's find something. You know, it's got different sound. Okay, that's interesting. So these are all different string patches that you can see are layered into different sections. And, oh, these are part levels. Usually these default to things like cutoff and resonance. Now why? There we go. So Wow, kind of like organ stops. You can go, I never even caught that. That's kind of interesting, huh? All right, so let's say this pad. Here's something that's very cool is this skip back sampling. First of all, if you go into the system menu, these are all of the different things. And again, I think you can do, yeah. If you come down to input sampling, skip back time. This is from 5 to 40 seconds. And what it is that the thing is sampling its own output if it's powered on. And the longer you leave this, the longer sample it will catch, but the more time it takes. So usually, 10 or 15 seconds, leave that there, and if you want it to stay, you hit system right before you exit. Same as if you turn local control on or off. Now the thing that's cool is I can just screw around and play. Hit skip back. Here's everything I just did. So right now it's a sample in RAM. You can save it, you can name it, and again, this is very convenient. Start point of the sample, loop start, end, and horizontal zoom. Notice the little red boxes 1 through 4. So for instance, let's say I don't want that. Let's say I want this. I could go to the end point, which is knob 3, and I could, end it here. I could take the start here, and notice as soon as I touch one of these knobs, it then highlights that field, which means once that field is highlighted, you can use the alpha wheel for finer control. And these arrow keys change the zoom of the screen. There's a bunch of shortcuts, and I think shift up and down arrow changes the zoom size of the waveform. So I got myself all confused there. Sample. So if we just wanted this, you could go in and hit modify, truncate, select. If you just hit execute, it will create an entirely new sample in memory without touching that one. So, or you can go overwrite, execute, okay, and it will erase that, and now we just have this one. Then if you wanted to, you could go and normalize it. And watch here. These actually show you the progress. Then you could turn the loop on, play with it all you want. So that's a very handy way to come up with musical ideas if you're just messing around with the thing. And you go, oh, I like that idea. You hit this button and then you got it as a sample. Something else that's very cool about the skip back sampling is that the mix input, so it's got audio inputs, obviously you can sample into it, but get this, if you have like a send on a board that you send into here so that you can sample anything in your studio, and if you turn this on, even without sampling, the external audio coming in will play through the system and it will be captured by the skip back sampling. Let's come back up here, back to this one. Obviously you've got some effects on, and usually they'll put different things here at different times. Some of them screens you will have effects here, but you can always get to them here, and it's very elaborate. You've got routing, and you can highlight anything you want. And interestingly, you can even change the routing. Some cases, this is a patch effect, so you can select different things, and that you can also edit it. You can go in and say performance effects, here's the equalizer. You can change it to something else. Speaker simulator, all these different things. It's got a dedicated chorus that you can turn on or off, and you can even just pull up here You can select different things. Notice, again, the mapping. Immediately when you see the little red box or little green 1 through 8 are the faders for anything. You also have reverb, a whole set of mastering effects that you can use. So if you make a change in something, you're going to see a little red box with a check mark. That means it's been changed and not saved into memory. This is showing you that the live set called this has been changed and not set into memory. So if you wanted to save this is something that is a little kludgy and it took me a bit to get used to. You would have to write, you'd have to hit write, and then you would have to select the patch. And then you can name it whatever you want. It says, do you want to overwrite that one? I'll go, okay. Now notice that the little box here went away because that's now been saved to memory, but the live set hasn't. So then you would hit write again and you would go through the whole thing. Okay, right, okay. Now the little red box is gone, so that's been fully saved into memory. Another thing that you get used to real quick if you mess around with either sample editing or editing skip back samples or importing samples is the difference between these two buttons. So this is literally the sample. Here's the list of samples.
Listen here, Edward.
That's a sample. I got to make sure not to include that because that's a, I'm glad I found that. That's a phone call to someone else and it's got foul language in it. But if you had this loaded up with your own samples, or if you loaded the Sine Vibe set and there's hundreds and hundreds, even, thousands of samples, there's, here we're up to 500,000-600,000. I mean, there's tons and tons of slots for samples. This is the sample button here is the page that you can go into and you can do all the editing, where sampling is exactly what it sounds like. This is for something of, you can resample the output, you can do all that stuff right there. So I'm going to put the pad mode back in. Oh, if you just set rhythm, I think. So you can play it like that, or if you do the rhythm pattern, now these are patterns that you can record in with the sequencer, if that's what you want to do. So again, the amount of functionality in this one keyboard workstation, I'm not saying others, Korg and Yamaha, the great companies too, but there's just so much usable stuff in this. This is why I'm keeping one. I'm selling this one and keeping the one that has more keys.